Alright, it seems the boss is dead. We're just gonna go ahead and distribute the loot here.
I'm hoping for some cheese now.
There's no loot. I repeat, there is no
Want some food?
Yeah.
Want some food?
Yeah.
Maybe you're gonna have to wait till next week. No loot, no loot, no loot, no loot, no loot, no loot, no loot. No loot Sundays.
Warning, tonight's episode entails details of the upcoming expansion for World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth. This also includes alpha footage live streamed on this Twitch channel that I have here. So without further ado, if you don't want any spoils, just get out of this fucking podcast and come back later. We don't want to hear from you anyways. That said, welcome to No Loot Sundays. I am Braille alongside our boy Faye. As always, how you doing, Faye?
Good. I didn't know it was morning though. Apparently.
Is it morning? Did I say good morning?
Yeah.
Man, I just woke up maybe, I don't know, 12 hours ago? So, it still feels like morning to me. So yeah, I'm on the I'm on the alpha servers now, which is fun. So me and Faye have been separated by Blizzard. Blame Blizzard. Hashtag blame Blizzard 2018. I'm basically
sure
going to be
that's
doing
been going on all
dungeons and shit. Yeah, just this year though. Not any of the other
Blizzard's
13
never
years.
made a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody was upset about, what was that, Warlords of Draenor? Nobody was upset
No,
about that.
no one was actually upset about that one at all. And they only were upset about it like when they hit the conjount draft or something.
Yeah.
That always makes me laugh. It's just like, with some exceptions, everyone's like, "No, this expansion is trash" or whatever.
Yeah, every single time. And this one's already, like, that's one of the things about alphas. It's already, in general chat, you can see people just bitching about shit. I'm like, dude, submit this problem. Like, if you don't like this is one of the big problems I find with these tests is, like, there's a lot of people who will bitch in general chat, but won't actually submit their issues on the forums or even in bug reports, where it's just like, you really should, because that's what Blizzard needs to hear, is when something is like, this is just not good, you tell Blizzard about it, man. Like, that's what I did with Prot Warrior recently, because I don't like the way Prot Warrior plays at all, and which is the only class I'm really playing right now in Alpha. I don't like how it plays on Alpha at all because of the way Ignore Pain works, which, for those who are watching from afar, Ignore Pain first fight through the pain for the next 4 seconds, causing 60% of the damage taken to reduce your rage instead. It's a 12-second cooldown. So the issue that I stated with this, since we're going to go ahead and just start getting into it, talking about numbers here. The issue that I have with this is that you're essentially working with an unreliable resource whenever you're using your Ignore Pain. Because one of two things is going to happen. Your rage is going to drop immediately, or your rage is going to stagnate. Either way, it becomes unreliable when you have to use your rage for other things like shield block and revenge. It's kind of silly to me that this is the route they choose. Like, if it was straight up, uses...
I will admit,
Yeah.
based on the other footage I've seen of like the breakdown of it, everyone says it seems to be a either currently it's not working as intended, like it's not doing anything, or it's not actually eating through rage when you use it, or but the main thing is like it kind of is your method of dealing with magic damage, which is the weird thing, because that and Demoralizing Shout, which is like the same duration cooldown as the other, like Anti-Magic Shell, 1 minute as well now. So actually, what's interesting is like I read your forum post that you'd posted, and you're like, we don't have any way to deal with magic damage, but after looking at it, Prot Warriors actually have more ways to deal with magic damage than any other class right now in Alpha.
See, that's where I say I have not looked at the other tanks yet.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there you still have, like, I mean, Blood Death Knights still have, I think, it feels like a better method of dealing with magic damage, because with a Prot Warrior, you're entirely dependent on your healer.
Yeah.
Like, if you get chunked, you need your healer to get you back up, whereas a Death Knight has ways to get himself back up.
Yeah.
and that always feels kind of bad. But I do think that are you able to copy your character over, or do you
Not
have
yet.
to play template?
Yep.
So-
template.
The templates also have like really low gear from what everyone's saying.
Yeah, it's pretty shitty
It just,
gear.
it just feels really like that compounds on any problem that might be solved with gear later on.
You are.
There's some crazy-
Sorry, go ahead.
There's some crazy like what I found most interesting is the math behind how block works now. If you've seen it, any of that.
I haven't seen the updated math. No, I didn't know that
Uh,
exactly that they were going to be
so-
adjusting that. Other than the fact that it's going to be based
Basically-
off armor ratio or something.
So yeah. When you gain more armor, like if you have any abilities that gain armor or use an armor pot, the amount you will block will go down because your armor will increase your overall physical mitigation. So you're still going to get lower damage while blocking, but it's this weird. It's I guess to kind of smooth out to where you can't have like this. Oh, I just mitigated the entirety of that. Like they can kind of smooth out the damage reduction curve rather than having you just block 3 things in a row and suddenly you're the best tank ever because this is all physical damage.
Right.
So I feel like I think really the only 2 tanks that have seen like significant changes so far are Prot Pally and Prot Warrior. I don't think, other than like some pruning and not adding anything back yet, have happened to Death Knight, Demon Hunter, or Monk.
I thought maybe it was only DPS that they've touched on Demon Hunter so far, but I know that they've looked
Demon
at
Hunter, yeah,
some
their
part of
DPS
it.
got a
Okay.
ton of changes, but based on the current alpha build, it didn't look like much had been touched on the tanking side yet, except for I only saw Fell Spikes. I didn't see the Magic Ward one, which I'm guessing
interested-
based
sorry.
on what other classes have, like the minor changes they've made, that it's just going to become you've got your 1 minute cooldown for like big damage, so because like anti-magic shell is one that has been changed to 1 minute. Demoralizing shout's also 1 minute. They're both so that's 20% reduction from Prot Warrior. Can't remember what Pally used before because wasn't Seraph actually damage?
Yeah, Seraphim was for
I don't know.
damage.
Yeah,
I will say that one of the big things I've noticed about the difference between Legion Prot Warrior and Belfraz with Prot Warrior is, okay, this is going to sound kind of ridiculous, but I fucking hate not having Manacles of Manaroth. Like, it makes me feel like I have less control over what I'm actually doing as a, we do have to go this way, have less control over what I'm actually doing with my own health in Battle for Azeroth than I did in Legion, and that really bothers me a lot. And maybe that's because
feel like
I've also
that-
spent way too long playing a Blood Death Knight now that I'm used to being able to heal myself, but
yeah. Well, and that's the other problem, like probably the other feel problem with the Ignore Pain change, because Ignore Pain could kind of operate similar to like the Blood Death Knight's shield, where you can build up like this massive pool of, hey, you can't hurt me.
and that's kind of
And
what I
obviously without that, now it's just like, no, like once my health is gone, it's gone. So unless they make it to where like, oh, you can now use Victory Rush after you block a damaging ability, which would be just stupid.
yeah, that would be overpowered.
Imagine that. I would love it, but imagine how stupid that would be.
Like at this point, I'm running. Right now, there's only 2 talents in this road. One of them's Safeguard, and the other one is Impending Victory. Safeguard is intercepting a friendly target. Also causes 30% of their damage taken to transfer to you, which is something I don't really care about because I generally hold threat. So far, anyways, I've held threat on this in this alpha build, but so I take Victory Rush, which feels necessary because I'm using it pretty fucking regularly just to like make sure that the rest of my group gets heals when I'm in dungeons and to keep myself alive when I'm questing, which does not
This may
feel
have
good.
changed, but I thought Inspiring Presence is also on that field, and I thought it also affected you, even though it doesn't state it.
Inspiring Presence is gone right now on the alpha build, it looks like.
Gone. Okay, so they have that. The calculator hasn't updated with that change.
Yeah, right.
That was working when I initially saw the first pass.
I would be interested to see what they end up doing, because it looks like, because Inspiring Presence, I can see why they want to get rid of Inspiring Presence, because now we have Battle Shout, and there's like, that's buffs on buffs, and you don't really want to give that kind of thing to a tank.
Yeah, well, plus it kind of interferes with like your holy pallies with their when I judgment someone, then you can heal off of him or whatever.
Right.
Like stuff like that. It's like it's the same thing, but it's a 100% all the time passive of 2% of the damage you deal, which just is like that's really strong.
Yeah. I would say definitely that. Okay, so what I suggested, I don't think I linked this to anybody in our Discord. What I suggested for Blizzard to, like, what I would like to see them do with that empty spot is to give us Gladiator Stance back. Because I really want it back. even though, like, realistically, whenever you get a bunch of gear, Gladiator Stance becomes a little overpowered as far as its DPS output. But I still want it back. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I remember, because the only time I played a prop warrior for any given time was in what was it? When was that added or removed?
That was
I
Vista
guess
Pandaria is when it was there. Might have also been in Warlords of Draenor.
I played.
Yeah,
in
it was
Mist, but
Warlords.
I couldn't remember if it was gone near the end of Mist or not.
It was. We had it. I know we had it in Warlords, and then we lost it at the beginning of Legion, pre-patch for Legion when they did the talent switches. So I remember being very upset about it, and I didn't care about any of the class changes that happened between Warlords and Mist. I don't think there were that many though, honestly.
They kind of were fairly light on some classes. Obviously, you had the Demonology complete rework, which people still complain about to this day.
I have heard nothing but good things about the new Demonology, by the way.
Oh yeah, the new Demonology looks incredibly fun. I'm sure there's still people who want meta back just because, but I kind of didn't like the thematic part of that. It like I get how people were saying like you get to turn into a demon, but it's like yeah, but you're not a demon. Like your whole thing is you control demons.
Yeah, the demons are your
like
slaves.
without turning or getting corrupted. So
I think they gave
I don't know.
Shaman's Earth Shield back, like the Earth Shield from quite a while ago. I think they gave it back.
Is it only to Resto or?
I think it's well, I've only seen it come from a Resto Shaman. Oh,
let's see.
Actually, I need to make sure I'm running combat logs. Yeah, so I've done a few things with enhancement shamans. Oh, I'm not paying attention at all. I've done a few things with some enhancement shamans, and their output's looking really fucking good. Let me tell you.
They got Unleashed
so far.
Life back.
They're doing a ton of damage so far, from what I've been able to tell by the combat logs. But the other class that I've played, I've only played 2. The other one I've played is, of course, the Survival Hunter. And Survival Hunter is in a great spot going into Battle for Azeroth so far. They could use more damage, that's for sure, because they generally don't do much damage. But as far as, like, fun to play, holy crap, that is probably one of the most fun specs I've ever played. So the way Survival works now is that you have an option to do a Beast Mastery mixed with, by the way, Survival Hunters have Beast Mastery, or not Beast Wrath, Kill Command, there it is. Survival Hunters have Kill Command now. So, what happens is you have...
Kill Command is kind of becoming baseline
for hunters.
Just for those 2 specs.
Well, yeah, you don't get it you don't get it at all, actually, for Marksman, unfortunately.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you got it if you were taking a pet, unless you're taking the bye-bye pet talent again.
Right. I haven't checked out Marksman yet. Or Beast Mastery. I do know though so the survival specs, I'm getting fucking meleeed down. You have So you have a harpoon buff that you can give that makes your harpoon do a bunch of damage, and then you can work that in with your bestial or your fucking kill command. There it is. You work that in with your kill commands, and what ends up happening is that it benefits you to be going out and in, and if you work it in with your serpent sting, it benefits you to be going out and in. So you basically make a momentum build, which is really it's pretty fun to play. It's a lot easier to control than the Demon Hunter's momentum build was, because you don't have to worry about what direction you're facing generally. As long as you're facing the target, you're gonna hit them. But I gotta run away. So I found that to be really fun, but the other things you could do though is that there's a dot spec that is available for marksman hunters now, and you have this like, it's not wildfire grenade exactly. It's a different kind of attack that does.
In survival.
Yeah, for survival. Sorry. It's not wildfire grenade anymore. It's like this bomb thing that you can talent, and you get 3 different kinds, and 2 of them apply like heavy dots. Oh no, one of them bolsters the dot that your serpent sting puts on them, and the other one is putting a 3rd heavy dot. And I think another one of them, if I remember right, makes it so that your kill command puts a dot on them. So it was pretty fun. I've been enjoying like the variety of that.
About marksman, at least marksman, it sounds like they're kind of moving some of the damage, like because current marksman is all about your aim shots pretty much.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, is a lot of that is getting moved off of that, so it's no longer front loaded on that, kind of spread out, which is, I think, good. It's never, well, I guess some people like it, but to me, it's not fun having just one button that does everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Beast Mastery is kind of the same way. It's
yeah, I'm really interested to see if they're gonna like do anything to like adjust Beast Mastery, or if they're just like, no, we want Beast Mastery to be
as your
introductory
starter spec.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's rough because Beast Mastery is definitely, like, with the exception of current or live iteration Havoc Demon Hunter, like, it is the, like, no, you're a noob, play the Beast Mastery.
Right.
And you can still get people who are bad at it.
It's kind of frustrating, like, the transition from having artifacts to not having artifacts. Because you're used to, at least for the classes that no longer have their artifact abilities, you're used to fucking, with Warrior, I'm used to having that extra,
button.
well, not just the button, but that extra defensive cooldown I can use. Which I got another one, which I'm glad, but it's not, I don't know, I liked having that channeled breath of fire I could throw out, that fucking, it isn't that much damage, but it's enough to matter, and then also I'm, like, blocking and critical blocking like a madman.
Well, how do you feel about the change to, at least I think it's a change to Spell Reflect?
I don't know.
Because Spell Reflect's not just a reflect anymore, it also is like a 4 or 5 second magic damage reduction, so if there's a dot on you, it does that too.
Oh, good. Well, then they just buffed it and made it more powerful. I haven't noticed it yet, though.
Because, yeah, that's been in for a couple of builds as far as I can tell, so... It sounded like a decent change to it, so it's no longer just I have to time this perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, you still should, because ideally, reflecting the damage is better than taking it and then sitting there with a dot. But what's interesting to me is based on like reading through some of the tank stuff since I started this Legion tanking, I was just saying it feels like they want you to be like much more liberal with like cooldowns, like with Demoralizing Shopping 1 minute. I think what was it? I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head for Monk. What was that thing called? Fortifying Brew.
Fortify.
Well, Fortifying Brew is still massive, unfortunately. It's still 7 minutes.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, but like most of the tanks, it feels like it's like, no, you should use these. Like, and I am such, like, with DPS, I'm all about hitting the buttons like the DPS cooldowns whenever, which that's something that's going to take a lot getting used to, because most of the DPS boosting abilities with Legion are going back on the global cooldown.
Yeah.
Which oof, that's gonna feel a little painful. Just because it's just like you constantly have to time it out. So it's like, oh wait, I want to hit this now. Nope, gotta wait 1.5 seconds or whatever.
Yeah, I will say one thing I've noticed with Prot Warrior is that since they've moved Ignore Pain to the system, like so I've always viewed tanking as you have big attacks that hit for a lot that you want to use your active mitigations for. You have massive attacks that you want to use your big cooldowns for, and then you have your regular attacks that you have shit for like Bone Shield and Ignored Pain for. And to me, it's kind of frustrating because with this change to Ignore Pain, Prot does not really have their rolling mitigation anymore. And so I just find it very frustrating that like you're fucking not really able to just eat the small stuff, and that stuff builds up, and then you're trying to eat the big stuff, and like you've already taken so much from the small stuff, and it's like this is a really shitty way to describe the issue that I'm having, but it's a really I don't know, I don't really enjoy this type of gameplay with this tank anymore, and that bothers the shit out of me.
It's one of those things where like it feels like you should what I'm hearing, the subtext of it is that you pretty much always have to be rolling one of your shield blocks right now.
Well, you can't,
just so you can keep up with the,
because shield block costs 23 rage now. Like you can't really roll it, and your rage generation is in the tube, so like as I said,
well,
90 fucking rage.
I feel like one of those big how you're saying it's gonna feel bad when artifacts go away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you were sitting there at like the full power artifact currently, you're also probably in like 920 gear at least.
Right.
So going in, I think having the proper stats that you have coming from Legion going into BFA it's probably gonna feel a little better than the early level greens.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I would say it's definitely gonna be true, but
the other big one that you like, don't get too discouraged, especially if you're someone watching this and enjoying like classes like it feels so gimped. It is the first pass alpha, and
yeah.
they tend to make their big like sweeping changes first pass, and then second pass is the tuning.
Yeah.
So it may just be that, hey, this is how it's going to feel until they actually get it right. Definitely looks like they need a better way to indicate how Ignore Pain works. It sounds cool to me. Like it's, at the same time, it's like, well, to me, it sounds like all it's going to end up being is like on a dungeon fight or whatever. It's just like, oh, magic damage is coming up. I don't have spell reflect. Time to use Ignore Pain. Right. Oh, physical damage is coming out. Time to use shield block.
Right. I want that to be what it is. But the issue, I don't know, man. Like the issue you run into is that, like, then what are you doing against rapid fire, magic attacks? You're using like Ignore Pain, but like that's a 12-second cooldown. That's 8 seconds out of every 12 seconds you're not going to have Ignore Pain. And then on top of that, so you've got your Spell Reflect, which is a 25-second cooldown, and that's not bad. So you're looking at getting another 4 seconds back every 50 or so seconds. Or I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, another 8 seconds back, 5 seconds. So 10 seconds back every 50 or so seconds, which puts you're able to have mitigation up, it looks like, 9 seconds out of 12 seconds. So yeah, that's not bad. And that is magic.
And then you also have Demoralizing Shout too.
Yeah, Demoralizing Shout. So that's 20%.
20%. 20% for 8 seconds. That's going to be probably the interesting. Like I don't know. We'll also see, because they may. I feel like a lot of the rapid fire magic attacks are probably going to end up having to be, especially since all classes are kind of losing their way of dealing with magic damage, at least actively, they just are going to be the type of stuff that is intended to bring the tank low, and the healer has to do their job.
And I will admit that I am one of those players that is like very turned off by significant change. And considering that, like in Legion, Ignore Pain was like one of the things I was spamming the living fuck out of all the time.
Yeah.
And now for it to be like, yeah, you want to like be careful about when you use this because you want to make sure it's up whenever bad shit's going down.
It just feels weird.
It does. It does feel really weird to me. And I'm hoping that maybe it's just I do just need to get used to it, but
Well, and also I think a big one is there's definitely a flaw with even being able to tell what is going on with Ignore Pain.
yeah, because there's times when you use it and your health drops to 1 and then goes right back up. But like it's bugged, you know, there's still bugs, there's still numbers that need to be changed. It's definitely so early on that it's impossible to tell if this is going to be, you know, even a viable build really, because the numbers aren't quite right on very much. Like there's a dungeon I did a few days ago. This is one of the most complete dungeons, by the way. The Taldazar, is it called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Taldazar. This is one of the most complete dungeons so far. It's in the best condition because Freehold has broken bosses right now. Nailed it. Freehold has broken bosses right now, and the other one that's up, Told Dragor, I think it's called, is it's a prison dungeon, and it's really fun, but like everything but the trash dies super fast, and the trash takes forever to die. So like you don't really know what all is 100 gonna be accurate yet. Oh yeah, we got killed the zombie dinosaur. But
yeah, I like the theme, and it feels like the dungeon looks huge from what I'm watching.
It's a big dungeon.
The active, like the amount of space you actually. Well, no, I'm talking about like the background is like, hey, look, this is a massive place. You're only in part of it.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like that whole idea of like, no, like you're in this area, you're just taking part of it. Kind of like the old Legion dungeons, where a lot of these massive spaces, but you're only in part of them for it.
Yeah. I think you'll definitely like Freehold then. That one's very open and very I don't know. I think it's the prettiest dungeon of the 3 so far that I've seen. But as far as like the fights go, the prison dungeon Told Dragor, that one has one of my favorite boss fights I have ever seen in a dungeon so far. And I'm really hoping that it doesn't get changed dramatically when it like from now to live, because it is just it's kind of like this crazy moment of like, oh shit, we gotta move, and like you don't know when it's coming. I don't know, it's hard to describe. I'll try to hit that dungeon today while we're on stream, so that way you can see it at least. But as far as like talking about the overall aesthetics of everything right now that I've seen, boy, I tell you what, we're in for a treat for the eyes with this expansion. Fucking, it is so good looking, and
no more Felgrain and
oh yeah, and like so today I started Nazmir because I finished up Zoldazar and I started Nazmir, and like I can see it took me a minute because like walking into the zone I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I expected, and then it gets to one certain point where I can see like what you were wanting to see out of that zone, and I was like, oh my god, this zone is so cool. Like,
yeah, because I was super excited about that one compared to like everyone else. Like, nah, it looks boring.
Right. Yeah, no, you are right to be excited about that zone. That zone's gotten nothing but good feedback so far.
Yeah, there's I've been kind of keeping an eye on that when I am free too.
Yeah.
Which is not much these days, but it's been interesting to watch how quickly the forms move, and like some of the stuff is just like I hear a lot of good things, and I hear this one person like, no, revert it back to vanilla version.
Oh god.
It's like you're just out of touch, man. Like,
yeah.
Or like you really love the playstyle or your memory of the playstyle, but I don't know. I'm there's so much that has changed. I'm curious to see. I was watching some stuff about the Arcane and how it's playing now, and it sounds like they're trying to move away from the Arcane explosion AoE spam.
I hope so.
And I would be fine with them kind of like if they don't go the direction I wanted it to go, which I never expected to happen, but I would have been happy if it did, which was like a battle mage type spec where you actually get like melee abilities or like range based, because Arcane Explosion fits that. I'd be fine with them removing it as well, just because like it just doesn't make too much sense, and I don't want to see like I don't want to see the playstyle ever being like, okay, melee and range stacked together in this area and just spam your AoE, like.
Right.
And we've kind of avoided that. There has been a few fights. It's like, no, you do want everyone to stack, and I'm fine with that. But still, now here's a question: since we're wanting to get into some big time Mythic Plus,
Yes.
with this, how do you feel about these dungeons with Mythic Plus affixes?
I've thought only pretty much on my first pass of all of the dungeons I've seen so far. That's like the only thing I have thought about. Is like, what is this going to be like with the fixes? And so there's one boss in particular, the one that's one of my favorites right now that I was talking about a few seconds ago from the prison dungeon, that has ads that are spawned before you engage him. So they are technically regular trash mobs in the dungeon, but you can't kill them until you engage the boss, and he tells you when you can kill them. So the question becomes, are those going to have affixes applied to them, or are they going to be considered boss units? Now, what excites me about this is that if they are their own units, right? They are not technically considered to be boss summoned units. Then we will have our first boss that we know of that is affected by both tyrannical and fortified, which is kind of a scary prospect. But that also said, how is teaming going to play into that? How is explosive, like, how are all of these other things going to play into that? So I'd be very, very interested to see what exactly that ends up becoming.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I not necessarily the best thing, but at the same time, with fortified and tyrannical possibly going as baseline, it may be that the overall scaling is going to, like, the scaling per additional dungeon is going to be tuned a bit better, so it doesn't get so insane as quickly. I guess that is remains to be seen, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I got a trinket. There's also
you got a little error.
Oh my god, I get all the little errors.
You're not running any
Oh no, we get blue errors are part of the alpha right now. It is insane.
Yeah.
You'll probably see it when I do an expedition.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things like people were bitching about. It's like, I can't run. Why can't I run add-ons? It's like,
oh god,
because
that'd be such a
how
bad idea.
how would they, like, if you're already getting errors, then how would they know what's causing the errors? It's like yeah, I know you can't play without LVUI or without your damage meter telling you how much DPS you're doing.
By the way, have you noticed the UI?
I did. I may actually be interested in going back to it, I say now, but my main thing that has always kept me going back to third party like LVUE or making my own with like a combination of different add-ons is just healing frames. Even with the raid frames, there's not enough. Like, there's a ton of customizability compared to the old days, but it's still not enough for me to get how I want it to be. Like, I want to be able to effectively, like, the things I want out of raid frames is I want them to be able to grow from the middle of the frame, so I can place them in the middle of the, like, because I like putting them right between, like, middle of the screen near the bottom, and just making them semi-transparent, and just that's how I heal.
Yeah.
And without the ability to do that, like, I don't like the giant block of either green or class-colored nameplates just getting in my way.
See, as a tank,
I like putting them all at like a neutral color, like a gray or a like a light. I guess gray is the best way to describe that. Sometimes just black that's just transparent, semi-transparent. That way I can just know, and then have it change colors based on missing health. Stuff like that is like makes it super easy for me to see the high priority heal when I'm healing, and it's just you can't get that out of the default UI. So every time, like I was fine, I used default UI when I was tanking, but as soon as I switched over to healing, I had to start using add-ons again.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way as far as with tanking. I don't give a single shit about the raid frames. Like they're not like that big of a deal to me. They're just like I don't pay attention to them unless I'm dead usually. So and other than that, I've got weak ores and shit to tell me.
Well, and you also got the exceptions of like when you're running your Death Knight, you obviously pay a little attention for the battle res aspect of things, but I mean the main thing, like having the you still get boss fams on the right side, correct? During a boss fight.
You still get
With
what?
default UI. Because that was in there for a while, where you'd have I'll tell you in a second once you engage this boss. Yeah, so there's a boss frame right on your map right now, so you can easily switch between bosses over there.
Yeah.
Which I remember during what was it? The Coven
Mistress?
fight in Legion, where you're like,
Oh, Coven, yeah.
Coven. And I was like, just click on, like, if you want to make sure you click the right one, click it from this frame on the right.
And not knowing their fucking names.
Yeah. Well, but you should be able to tell which one is actively aggroed on you based on the red border.
Oh, see, that's something I just learned. No, I'm just kidding.
If that's something you just learned, I am seriously impressed with the fact that you've maintained aggro all these years.
It might be
Did you
something
know
I
that
just learned.
the floating nameplates also do that as well, and they'll turn like a slight yellow if you're close to pulling aggro off.
Welcome to the No Loot Sundays podcast. Today, Faye is teaching Braille how to tank. God damn. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't really pay attention to outside of just the actual mechanics that are coming out on me.
Yeah.
But
You started, I feel like you've definitely gotten more into the pay attention to more mechanics as we've been, or pay attention to more of like those little tells though as we've started pushing.
yeah. Well, like
you kind of have to learn all the ins and outs of the game.
Yeah, you
and
do.
get any edge you can.
Yeah, knowing like
Now, obviously,
I mean, it's
Go
kind
ahead.
of like how to read your fucking game board, really, more than I'm trying to figure out what these little spiders do. Okay, so if we light them up, is it that they become attackable? I don't know. So I keep doing this stuff in these dungeons when I'm testing them out, where I'm like, I want to figure out what these mechanics do, and so like I get hit by everything, and I make my group get hit by things, and like a lot of times this
Yeah.
results in a wipe, and yeah, I actually like how that fight's tuned right now.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about now. It must have bugged out.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, like it's one of those things that I'm sure like if the damage once you hit max level, that's when you can start really playing with that kind of stuff. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna stand here and let them wear on me while I mouse over debuffs on my bar and buffs and see what the hell is going on.
Yeah, generally, I'm more or less just trying to figure out what the mechanics do in some situations. Like, yesterday when I first fought this boss, she cast an ability. This was Mistress Yasma, something like that. Yasma, yeah. So she casts an ability on somebody that makes a little ghost spawn, and the ghost starts walking towards her. And I was like, okay, now obviously something's going to happen when this ghost reaches her. Is it going to buff her, or is this going to be like raid-wide or group-wide damage? And so I just ran her right in and found out that it's going to be significant group-wide damage. So
Just wipe.
yeah, so and we wiped, but because it killed our healer immediately. And I left a message when I do my feedback and everything. I left a message. I was like, don't change how much damage her explosion if a ghost hits. Don't change that. Make sure it one shots the healer. That's
Now,
important.
do they have any dungeon like guide stuff in the game yet?
Yes, yeah. We've actually, if you want to get into a little bit of spoiler territory here, spoiler beyond spoiler territory, we've got raids. Old Deer has all of the boss listed right now, and they even have the overviews and the abilities for the bosses listed for the first raid. And I have read into that, and the last boss looks like a ton of fun. Zandalar and Kultiris don't have bosses listed. I think actually Zandalar might. Yeah, Zandalar does have 2 bosses listed, and they actually do have abilities. Wow, that's cool. So, that's pretty cool, but they don't have... Oh, they do have models. Maybe? Nah, probably placeholders. Hard to say if these models will be legitimate, though. I'm going to check Uldir, actually, because I never bothered to see if there was... Yep, there's a model for one. There's another model that you can't really move around. Fetty Devourer looks like Guarm from the one. We got a Bug Boy here.
Look, it's another mistress.
Blood of Gahoon, and then...
I mean, okay.
Oh,
That's a
look at
placeholder.
that! Oh my god, wait till I get to Gahoon.
That's a straight up Zergling.
I know, but it looks so cool!
Okay, so some of those are very clearly not placeholders, but some are. Like one of them was Guarm from
Yeah.
Trials of Valor,
Yeah.
and then another one was straight up one of the Shah, just recolored.
Yeah, this one, the Blood of Gahoon, just a recolored Shah. But that still might
And,
end
yeah.
up... Well, no, they'll probably give him a little bit of...
A
Well,
bit more
that's
unique.
yeah, but Gahoon...
Yeah, it's a
looks-
little bit. It's a few. That's. I guess it's more of a cross between Xavius and the Shah, but still.
Yeah,
That's like that reminds me super of like they added more Zergling to the seat like the gates of AQ like tank things. That looks like a little
There's
bit.
a Zergling.
No, Hydralisk. More Hydralisk than Zergling there.
The Karaji Warrior looks like a fucking Zergling, in my opinion. But yeah, this one, the Zekvaz or whatever, he looks like a Hydralisk. Which is fine, whatever. And
Yeah, it's interesting.
so Talek stands out in the open world. Talek the Corrupted, he's the first boss, it looks like, in the Zandalar, or in the Uldir raid, which makes me... I think I know where the raid's going to be now. I haven't found the entrance to it yet, but I have a feeling of where it's going to be. But yeah, and when you first see him, it's a pretty cool moment. But yeah, he's a pretty neat model, I think. But unfortunately, you can't see all of them. But yeah, he's big boy. Yeah, the raid fights look... Gahoon looks fun as hell. No loot listed yet because it's still early as shit. But basically...
I thought it was because it was Sunday.
God damn it, Faye. And with that, I'm going to go do a island expedition. Faye, carry the show.
I've heard that there's they have, I guess currently they only have normal and heroic island expeditions, or maybe just even normal.
It's only normal
But
right now.
they've talked about how they want to add probably a mythic level as well as a like obvious the PvP one was the big one that everyone or a lot of our guildies wanted.
Yeah, the PvP one is... I mean, like, playing through it, it feels like the PvP mode is where the bread and butter of this type of gameplay is going to be. Now, I should preface this with a warning that you are not actually going to see me play an island adventure or an island expedition. You're going to see me join one and then click cancel on my Lua errors for the next 15 minutes, and then it will end. But it is, I mean, in thought, like, it looks fun. From what I have tried of it, I mean, there's parts where I'm like, wow, this is really neat. And then there's other parts where I fucking got stuck and I don't have a way out. Does this work in this game? Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
So,
but yeah, and then there's other parts that
you may be permanently stuck there now.
I'm gonna have to wait till my
So
horse
I did notice that you got a Heart of Azeroth buff, but I assume that you can't do anything with it yet.
It's not ready yet.
So they have it like because that's another place that they can obviously make changes and fixes.
Yeah.
Although I kind of hope they don't make it, or if they do, it's you've got choice between how you're gonna do it. I don't know. I'd love to see stuff like, so for example, to deal with tanking issues, you get the choice between give me more mitigation, or just increase my health pool.
Yeah. By the way, if you aren't watching, the Spirit Healer or whatever in Zandalar is Bwamsandi. I thought that was really cool. That was a nice touch. But yeah, I am hoping like hell that... So, when we started our new specs and stuff in the pre-launch for Legion, it really felt like like as those specs felt really incomplete for some of them without their artifact weapons, and I'm wondering if the Heart of Azeroth is going to have the same kind of effect, where it's like it feels really incomplete unless you have the benefits of the Heart of Azeroth. In which case, it makes me wonder like how much more power are these things actually or is the Heart of Azeroth actually going to give us, you know? So it's interesting. I mean, we'll have to find out.
Yeah, I don't know, that feels like they kind of wanted to get away with it. At the same time, they did say that the artifacts gave them the ability to make some really interesting and kind of weird out there type changes, and just be like, it's going away in an expansion, so they can really screw everything up.
Which in some cases they did.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
It seems like because you've only been playing what, maybe 12 hours total, and you're already level 8 on it.
I've
Sounds
been
like
playing for 2 days, 13 hours, and 21 minutes and 9 seconds.
Okay. So that's
Wow.
still not.
I've only had alpha for 3 days. Jesus Christ. I've been playing a lot of this alpha recently.
No. How many bug reports would you say you've submitted so far?
Oh my god, over 100 easily.
Hey, that's good.
Man, I submit feedback on everything. Like, I'm not fucking. I want to like make sure this is a good expansion. Is like my thought, and I'm like, I am just one of the I would probably say several hundred people selected for alpha so far. Maybe 1,000, maybe several thousand. I'm not sure, but it's got to be several thousand because they've got two servers that are near capacity. So
Yeah. Plus, they already hit like you're not. It's not just the because this is round 1 alpha, and then they already had the friends and family in there, which I'm assuming, based on number of employees of Blizzard, plus all press, that's probably almost 1,000 there.
Right. I would say that like the plus side is like this would if you ever wanted your opinion on the game to get heard by somebody at Blizzard, this is the stage in which you have the best chance, most likely, that you'll ever experience to get your opinion heard by somebody at Blizzard. You know, and so that's why I'm like, I'm giving all of the feedback, like, so I can feel like I was a part of the team. Like, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that it always feels bad when they don't listen to said feedback, but that's how it works.
Yeah.
You can't expect them to be like, yeah, this guy he definitely knows, because like I did notice, and like I noticed one of the comments on your forum post was like, yeah, that all sounds cool, but that do you realize how overpowered that would make them?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, I thought about how overpowered giving warriors basically a spell block ability that is on the same charge as shield block, and I thought about that, and I was like, holy paladins. Like, I realized, theirs is 2 charges on a 40-second cooldown, if I remember right, or 25-second cooldown, something along for what is it, Righteous Shield, I think.
Yeah, which I think is changed to be it just increases armor now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Actually, let me check armor physical damage reduction. Okay, so yeah, it will be for the next expansion. It will be a. Oh boy, that's a hefty nerf, man, for Holy Paladins. They're gonna be in the same boat as warriors if they're not careful.
Yeah, they've Shield of Righteous is reducing. Oh no, it's Shield of Righteous is still reducing damage you take by 25% while till canceled, which I'm guessing means you can't do anything. Well, what's up?
That's weird.
I can't. Because that would feel. I don't know if that'd feel better or worse. It's like, yeah, you don't take damage. You reduce all damage you take, but you can't do anything else during it. So is that better or worse?
Oh god, I would say worse by a landslide, but you know. Oh, also I'm gonna point out something that I thought was pretty interesting here. In Zandalar, there's a special area that has a bunch of Vicryl, some of the cat people from Uldum. It's got Jinyu, Hosen, pandas, goblins, Volpera. Like it's just a hodgepodge of random Grummel's hodgepodge of random ass races, and like it doesn't really. I don't really understand why. Oh, and also the Walrus people, Tuskar, they're here too, and I don't understand why they're all here. You know, and I think this is either something that is going to be like stocked with other races later, and it's like a joke on Alpha right now that Blizzard's just trying to play to be like, look at all of these races that literally everybody has wanted to see become playable. Like the only race they are missing in this group of things is Naga, and
which we've already
and Ogres.
even on the podcast we've talked about how like that's just very hard to make happen because it's like no, they can't use mounts,
right?
Or even worse, they'll use mounts and it will look awful.
It looks silly as fuck. Yeah. And then there are some ogres in the city somewhere. I found them the other day, but yeah, there's a lot of shit on the alpha that makes you kind of like, what does this mean? And you can't think too much about it because the truth is always going to be this doesn't mean anything. This is alpha. Like this does not mean.
Yeah.
The only thing that really means anything right now is the story, and the story is complete. Like.
Not there yet.
Right.
Not complete yet.
Nothing else is complete. The story, Blizzard has the story done. It is, and it's a good story. So.
Well, from what I've heard, there's currently Teldrassil and Lordaeron haven't changed.
Yeah, they haven't been implemented yet.
So that's why a lot of people are saying is that just because they're trying to hide that until the expansion launches, which is possible.
Mm-hmm.
They may just keep that internal, and it may be the start event, or it may be a max level event. Oh, that's an interesting. That you're just at the black market.
Yeah,
I saw the random scenario pop up at the same time when you open the black market, and I was just like, wait, huh?
How does this work? Yeah, it turns out you start out by bidding on something, and then you go to the island.
You got to bid on an island expedition.
Yeah, it's a great time, let me tell you. Yeah, hopefully they have put some work into stopping the Luares on the island expedition, but...
Can you move? Oh, yeah, because what I usually did was I'd like move the Luare, like because it happened to me during some of our boss fights where I'd get Luares just constantly popping them, and I just had to drag the window to the right side and just play with them constantly.
Oh, and just like I might actually do that.
And then
too.
like you'd get the massive frame slowdown obviously during it, but you at least got to do something.
So good.
It currently match makes you with 2 other players.
Yeah, right now
just
it's
randomly.
all you really.
Is it kind of role agnostic?
Yes, it is completely role agnostic. So
kind of like scenarios.
It is very
kind of like the old days,
right?
I guess.
On a repeating pattern. I will say so. The UI isn't that smart, or the AI rather. The AI isn't that smart. It's not as smart as, or at least not yet, as smart as Blizzard played it out to be at BlizzCon. The thing about the AI though is that it is very good at like catching you off guard and keeping itself from knowing that keeping you from knowing that it's there. And that is something that is kind of exciting about it because like there's a lot of situations you'll get into on this island where you're like, this would be a really shitty time for the Alliance to attack, and then they won't attack, and then you'll get into another situation where like, whoa, this would be way worse, and then the Alliance will attack, and it's like you don't know when to expect them. And so that's kind of like a fun part of the gameplay. But another part of it is like it's frustrating because it's too easy to peel them. Where like obviously you're fighting for a big Azerite node, right? And so if I went over there first and got their attention and started having them attack me, gave it a few seconds and they're attacking me, I'd be able to walk slowly away from that node, and then the rest of us would just take that Azerite, and you wouldn't have to worry about the Alliance. And since I'm a tank, we have that advantage. So that's where like the differences between your AI and your players are going to come into play on these islands on PvE. But that said, this is all only on normal, and it's still like you can still lose without any issue on normal. So it makes me think that like when you get to the harder difficulties, that it's actually going to be pretty fucking hard. And I think that's pretty cool. I really hope that's how it does turn out.
Yeah. Because that was one of the things that people were saying. I think early, like when you got into alpha, people were saying it was too hard, and they kind of toned it down and said there's still going to be a heroic and possibly a mythic, probably to address the concerns of people like, well, now it's too easy.
Yeah, no, I know that they're planning to do a heroic and mythic. It's just, I don't see that beating out the experience of a PvP version of this, honestly, because it's just like, I don't know, this seems like such an interesting way to like have player versus player in this game now. That it's like, it feels like open world like tasks that you're trying to accomplish, and then on top of that you have to deal with the other players, you know. I will say another
A bit more organic, I guess,
Yes.
form of PvP where it's not like the constant garbage of, hey, everyone take point A or point B or whatever.
when the objective is to not or when the objective isn't to attack each other, it makes for a more organic feeling PvP, especially whenever, hang on, versatility increased by
Not
30,
deathmatch.
healing taken by 60, nice. Right, it's not just a straight up deathmatch like we get with Battlegrounds and Arena. So it's going to be fun to try in PvP, and I really hope that they put a PvP version up on the alphas pretty soon, but I honestly don't think they will, not until we're allowed to be at level 120 yet. But
Yeah, well, I heard a big complaint currently with the PvP aspect is the fact that you don't have and this I think is going to piss some people off, is the fact that you lose all of your honor talents that you already have from 110, and they get relocked behind max level.
I don't. They don't have our honor talents implemented. I don't know what they are doing, and I don't think they know what they're doing with honor talents yet. Because
Yeah,
they
I
don't
just
seem to
know-
have answers.
Well, and the big thing is that the people, especially with how quickly they have to progress, because I mean we're less than 6 months out, right?
Yeah.
At this point.
Right.
So the people who are actually working and designing probably only have a meeting once or twice a week with the customer interaction teams to like be able to drop stuff. Because, I mean, if you've got like any team that you work on is gonna kind of play similarly like that. Like in crunch time, if you had to deal with like customer interaction, yeah, that's not gonna happen until like it can't happen every day.
Right.
There's just not enough time, because it's like, well, we could do that, but like I've got 12 meetings with people that are going to be an hour long trying to discuss how to solve these problems that keep coming up.
Right. See, so like right now I'm fighting against the AI, right? But the way it moves actually looks more like a player, which is the difference to me. Like, you're not in a stagnant fight anymore. These guys are moving around, like jumping around like idiots. It's fun and interesting to like look at this and be like, that's not a player, you know, because it looks like a player plays, and that's the fun part. But the reality is, though, there's easy ass ways to manipulate them.
Yeah, it's that kind of unfortunate thing about AI is you really can't. You're always going to be, until you start doing like machine learning, and then it just gets impossible, because obviously it'll get out of hand because it'll learn how to counter you.
That's the thing, though. Apparently, that's what Blizzard's implementing into this is machine learning. That's what the
Yeah,
rumor
well,
is.
The big thing with machine learning is like you have to give it a form of reward, so it chases a certain thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be hard to do, because you may end up seeing these situations where they just, like, because of how they implement that, it's the AI realizes that the best strategy is to always run away from the player. That doesn't make it fun anymore.
Yeah.
But it may end up meaning that they win all the time, because it's like, well, let's just not deal with the dude, or let's just hit them when they're trying to capture the node and then run away, and then hit them while they're.
Right.
So it's a very hard problem, and more power to them if they can get it right. But I'd be more happy with how it looks currently from what I'm watching in its current gen. And if it gets harder, because on the higher difficulties, that's great. But I'm more than happy with how it looks so far, it looks like it's still going to be a fun little bit of gameplay.
Yeah, so far it's been. I mean, like I haven't had any serious troubles yet with Lua, but like, and this is. I mean, it's interesting right now. But I've kind of like there's still some parts of it that I don't really understand. Like you're able to get buffs and stuff that are and not just like regular buffs that like, oh, this gives you 30% more health or whatever. Like that guy just opened that thing up because he had something on him, and I don't know what he had on him that allowed him to open that up. And I'm trying to figure out what things match what things and how to determine when something is happening. And there's a lot of shit that it's like, yeah, you just have to play it a bunch to really know. So that's
Now, have you seen anything yet that kind of indicates your quarter stars type game design where professions allow you to influence things in the dungeon world or in the island excursion world?
No, but you also got to keep in mind that professions aren't really like implemented
Done
fully yet. Yeah, they're not really done yet. So they're probably like not working on anything like that just yet. That said, though, I would not be surprised, especially in island expeditions, to see if there were things that your professions could affect, because it just seems like that kind of a design where there's so many different variables that you can encounter, and to throw professions, what profession you might have into that equation will just make for more interesting gameplay. So I would not be surprised one bit if that's something that made its way into island expeditions. Have you heard about the Southern Barrens and Arathi Highland warfronts?
Mm-mm.
So apparently there's been data mined footage. Sorry?
Are these changes to the battlegrounds or
No,
or
this
warfronts?
is for warfronts. There's been data
Okay.
mined. There's been data mined shit of Strom being rebuilt, images of Strom being rebuilt, and images of Theramore being rebuilt. So that way you can have a battle in the Southern Barrens that is apparently the Alliance defending against a Horde attack, and then one. How do I get this guy out? And then one that is the Horde defending against an Alliance attack, or trying to attack the Alliance, or whatever.
That may require a dispel.
It could. I don't honestly know. I don't have anything for him, so. Alright. Finally, the Azerite's going to be visible on our map, even though I thought it wasn't visible this whole time. But I don't know much. Oh, we got a portal, it looks like. But this seems like a fun, oh, we got a big boy, it looks like. This seems like a fun game mode to, like, get with two of your bros, two of your guys, get drunk, fucking go have yourself a good time on the islands and stuff, and just, like, in situations that are PvP or not, like, it's still gonna be a fun time. Also, fuck this guy, what are you doing? Get out of here, this is mine. Don't even know what that guy is. Also, where's my team? What mages cast Aqua Bolt? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, but I would like to see that as a spell. Of course, I haven't seen anything on Frost Mages yet, so it's still. I'm trying to read the signs and gonna main next expansion.
That's a
the
good
Arms
question.
Warrior looks interesting.
I think they're gonna get the best of me here. I don't think any of our. I don't think my team's. The Rogue just showed up. But yeah. I mean, I don't really like the way Prot Warrior's playing right now. I haven't played Blood Death Knight or anything like that. But if Blood Death Knight's anything similar to what it's doing in Legion, I'll probably be staying on Blood Death Knight. But I also have some pretty high hope for the tanking Demon Hunter and what that's going to end up being in Legion because of what they're doing with the DPS. That maybe they'll readjust tanking for Demon Hunters too and make it a little better.
Well, and also, I know one of your big complaints with your Death Knight is obviously the lack of movement.
Yeah, it does suck.
So if like a Demon Hunter, if it has the same feel or a better feel at this, like it definitely has the movement that you lack.
Yeah.
for sure. Like that is 100% like what they are good at,
Yeah.
or at least current. Who knows if they tone down a little bit of the movement speed from because I don't know how it would feel if you were constantly dealing with them jumping around in PvP.
I do like though that you can't like as I just demonstrated, like a boss, you cannot you can't take on more than one of the opposing faction. Like you'll die. There's no way for you to beat them. And that's definitely for the best. Also, I just gave them a ton of Azerite because I tried to take on all three of them. That was not a good decision there. Almost 1,000 ahead of us now. Holy shit. Oh, but there's a portal.
That's interesting that there's a like that kind of punishing thing involved in it.
Yeah, you become, because the longer you're alive and the more Azerite you collect, you become more valuable. Like I think it goes up to 250, and then and then you cap, and you will either lose that Azerite when you die, or you will give it to the Alliance.
Man,
So
that loading that loading graphic, ridiculous.
it's pretty cool.
I just think it's a little interesting, I guess is one way to put it.
It reminds me a little bit of the Halls of Valor one. Oh shit.
I was gonna say it reminds me of PowerPoint, but
Of what? PowerPoint?
PowerPoint transitions,
Wrecked.
or like what people use in iMovie and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, look at this cool thing I did.
Look at this graphic. I'm a big boy director now. If I solo this guy, I'm gonna put our team back on the map. That fucking wind is right up on him. Oh, I can stun him. That's good to know.
This doesn't look like something that's supposed to be soloed.
Yeah, you're not
Or-
supposed to be able to solo this character. It's supposed to be a boss mob. So if I am able to solo it, I'm gonna have to tell Blizzard, hey, you guys need to fucking fix this
Tune this up.
motherfucker. Yeah, you need to tune this up. The big thing though is he's only casting mechanics. So like as long as I just avoid his mechanics, like I'll live. The way they can fix this is by having some more. Well, there's one.
Direct damage going out.
Well, more direct damage, or putting more shit like the tornadoes that I need to be dodging here. Like, fuck. Because with more of those
Yeah, 'cause
tornadoes, it becomes a little more difficult. See, so.
Yeah, that definitely. Looking at it, it feels kind of like. I mean, I'm all for having stuff that is completely ground target abilities that you have to dodge out of, because I like being able to
Hey,
solo
my
stuff.
team's
But at
here.
the same time, I understand that's not great game design.
Right.
Like, and if it is, you have to make it hard to dodge, and this is just not the type of game.
I mean, this to me feels like
For that.
something that you are supposed to have your team together on to kill. But I have a feeling that my team was mostly focusing on killing the Alliance, and they died more than the Alliance did. Because I'm looking at the Azerite difference right now, and it's looking like we're about to lose. Yeah, we're about to lose.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can kill this
Well,
guy first.
that's how it happens.
Alright, we killed that guy. Oh, it grants experience. That's cool. Yeah, so there's
Oh, I thought
500 Azerite.
I thought
That's
you were saying one of your teammates died and he grants experience. I was like, that sounds like a bug.
That would also be cool.
No, that
I'm
would
not
be a
against
bug.
it.
Because
I'm
then
not
it's like, oh, ready for the race to 120? Okay, let me kill you 400
Yeah,
times.
exactly. Easy peasy. Alright. We gotta kill the Alliance guys. We gotta take away their resources, or take away their Azerite. Try to pull this back from the brink.
Yeah, but
Oh,
that's...
fuck! God! Stop targeting the Prot Warrior!
But you're the prop warrior. Yeah, they're kind of hitting you in the face
They're
pretty hard.
juking, man. They're juking me.
Man, This reminds me of our stint in Torino with U.S. Prot
I
Warrior.
know, right? All right, we got one of them. There's the other
So,
Skull Shaper.
did you see the post about
Oh, the hell.
the changes to the global cooldown stuff, and how do you feel about that?
I think it is the thing that is hurting Rage Generation for me right now. Because that's something I've noticed is that, I don't know, it's like everything feels more spaced out. And that you have to wait on your abilities more than you do on live servers right now.
Well, they changed how Rage Generation works, I think, on one of the builds. I don't know if they reverted it, but my understanding was it's no longer, like, it's kind of a combination of how much damage you take versus how much damage you deal, which obviously hurts if you're not using your damage dealing abilities as much.
Where did that guy go? He was just here. The hell? We gotta fight. Oh god. No, we lost!
Oh, wow.
I blame my team. So yeah. Fuck, I didn't look at the name of that. I need to look up the name of that guy that I could have soloed.
Yeah, you may have to go back to the VOD.
Yeah, I might have to do that.
Yeah, definitely. That's an interesting type of bug. Yeah. So, but basically, the change to the was putting a large number of the offensive cooldowns on global cooldowns. So if you used to macro things together, like hey, use reckless litness. Nope, you gotta use them separate now. So it's definitely a change.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it to me. I like the idea of it. It's just going to be so hard to, I don't know, get used to. But it's going to get rid of a lot of your burst macros, like hey, use all of my big shit at once. And maybe that means like people are going to have to start being smart with how they they separate out their cooldowns. So you no longer can just be like, hey, I'm just going to use all my cooldowns at once. Which is definitely kind of a problem. I liked doing it with like the on-use trinkets, which are also, a lot of them are going to be the same way on the global cooldown. But I kind of liked how Blizzard was handling it with Legion, with a few of the trinkets where they had a negative if you were using them on cooldown. So you actually had to pay attention to how often you were hitting them.
Yeah.
And there sounds like more they're trying to go back to the design of, no, like you use them when you got to keep them when it's actually optimal to use them. You can't just roll them. And I don't know if that's going to be reflected in the actual class design. I can say that currently it does seem to reflect with Demonology, because you've got your cooldown of your Demonic Commander, I think it is, that empowers all your demons and extends the duration. That's obviously like I use that, and then I hit my act at that point, I'm not going to be dumping all of my shards. I'm going to be trying to empower them more, or pre-empower them and stuff like that. So
yeah.
So there's some stuff to be seen with all of that.
It's very. Oh Christ! I just lost my train of thought.
You're a blue orc.
Yeah, dog. Green's for chumps.
I don't think that's a normal color.
Green's for chumps. I also have a brain slug.
So do you think you're going to you set on tanking? Because I know like before. Well, I guess with our Mythic Plus stuff, you are set on tanking.
Yeah.
But I know you wanted to push survival.
I wanted to
and there's the possibility that I may want to, like, if you find survival super fun, I obviously won't know until I get alpha or until it comes out.
Speaking of which, Blizzard, hook a brother
tanking.
up here. I need my boy Faye to be on alpha. I know you're watching because I'm giving back form feedback. You gotta hook Faye up with an alpha pass, because I need him to help me test dungeons, or other
What?
stuff.
You gonna bring? Yeah, so I'm gonna have to bring my pre.
No,
Give
you get to
some
make whatever you
reliable
want.
healing.
Yeah, give me that healing.
Uh,
Yeah, so this one's freehold, and I don't.
Is
know
that
how
one
it's
of the
gonna
bug
go.
ones?
Yeah, this one has a few problems. Mostly the second boss is a huge problem. But yeah, you can see you can't just pull the entire first pack of trash in the gear that we're in right now.
Ow. Well, I mean, I was gonna say there's a on high level plus that's still a problem.
Yeah, it's just, good lord. Now, I mean, I don't really know if it's overtuned because I accidentally grabbed 2 packs at the same time here, but I will say trash fucking matters in this expansion so far. Like, it definitely matters. And also, it
I mean,
sucks that the bird is crapping everywhere.
Yeah, I want to say there's something like, remember when we like early Legion, we were like holy crap, mythic, like regular mythic dungeons are hard.
Yeah, they
And
were.
it's like now they're not, like they definitely got scaled out quickly now.
Yeah, the gear. I mean,
There's
the
that
power
huge,
group.
there's the huge stat squish, which means that hopefully they're going to scale a little better because we got a minor stat squish before Legion, but we didn't get like
Oh, this
the
is
huge
a
one that we
massive
got for
stat
Warlords.
squish. This is probably the biggest
Yeah,
stat
this-
squish they've done if they keep this.
Well, yeah, like look at the damage numbers. Like
Yeah.
crits are like in the thousands instead of the
Right.
millions.
Also, one of the things to think about is, so if you want a direct number ratio, item level 1000 is now item level 265. So we're looking at,
Okay, so
what is that, 85%?
yeah, what I want to see is what happens
I need to get
in pre-patch. So we know we're gonna lose. Like, I don't know if we're gonna lose our artifact in pre-patch or we're gonna keep it through pre-patch or what.
right.
The other question is what's gonna happen to our legendaries.
I think we're going to keep our legendaries.
I feel like they have to let you keep them because if they straight up got rid of them, then there's people who don't keep backup slots of gear for if they've got a legendary that is their best in slot always, it's always going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, there's some legendaries that I mean, you're gonna have to find something that is much higher item level to replace it. To me, I think Blizzard's gonna have to forcefully take legendaries away, like they're doing with artifact
Just
weapons, because like there will be reason, in my opinion, to use some certain legendaries at level 120 for a long
yeah,
time,
like-
and that doesn't feel good, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Conversions of Fates problem
Yeah.
that Nighthold introduced, which that trinket is still considered one of the best. Like, that just is what happens.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. I'm just, I don't know, man. I really hope Blizzard has a plan to take away the legendaries forcefully, rather than like just being like, oh well, they'll just go for the highest item. Well, it's like, no, the good players will not. You know they won't, because if it's
Yep.
better for them,
They'll go with whatever sims best. Now,
Right.
obviously, early on, some people will get rid of them for the highest item level, but then once the sims are updated, then they're gonna be like, oh wait, I still have them in my bags.
right. And think about the fact that we just, plenty of people now are getting an item level 1000 fucking, oh, what the hell is the name of that trinket that everybody needs? Christ. It gives you, a bunch of secondary stats. Arcana Crystal.
You're talking about
We all,
Oh.
or a bunch of people just basically are now able to get the item level 1000 Arcana Crystal, a la, the last boss of the raid in, fucking Antorus. There we go.
Antorus, yeah. And that reminds me, I need to start doing some more Antorus so I can get
Yeah,
a chance at it.
I haven't raided in a while.
Yeah, we all kind of took our breaks.
Yeah. Yeah, the guild's been pretty slow now that I'm doing this shit. Oof, trash.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see some.
Maybe we'll
Some
get to a
return to
boss
norm.
here soon.
I'm definitely surprised that they've moved the menus and the bags over to the right side.
Yeah, I know. Also, the right side of the screen action bar is tiny and super tall now.
Yeah, I was curious if that was like if those were feedback buttons, but then I saw you click and mount with it. And I was like, whoa, Now, if you put two, do they stack like the bottom bar now, or do they like if you turn left hand like the double right
So it's
that it used to be? Where there are
yeah,
two?
it's basically like one goes down to here, the other one goes down to here.
Okay.
It's basically
Interesting.
long ways and not cutting into your screen. Which, I mean, by like realistically though, that's clearing up your screen more and more, and that's a good thing. So, as a
Yeah, I'm sure there's someone out there who's gonna complain about it.
Oh yeah, I already did. I didn't like this thing at first, but it's grown on me. God, I just want to use ignore pain to make all of this stop hurting.
You can't just ignore all the pain.
I know, man. Like I thought ignore. Ugh, I don't know.
The name is yeah, I say you should probably, if maybe set aside like an hour so you can get, because I feel like if you want to give really solid feedback on tanking,
Yeah,
you got to kind of know how it feels on every tank.
yeah, I know.
Otherwise, you're kind of just
Well, I think I'm about 2 levels away from max level on this guy. Current max
level
levels.
as of current. Yeah.
Yeah, 116
I
is
assume
the
they
highest
don't
you can go.
Yeah.
Until Voldoon comes out. But yeah, so once I'm 116 on this guy, I'm gonna start a Death Knight, and that's when I'm gonna open up to like other tanking classes as well, rather than just like only working on Death Knight. I'll probably make a Prop Alley and a probably one of each, honestly, since I can do it so easily on here. And then just start testing those boys.
Yeah. See if the Demon Hunter has any.
Noticeable changes. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't look like it last time I checked, but you know they do put out a lot of changes daily now.
Oh my gosh.
not-
Well, like I told you earlier that it was nonstop Lua errors on the fucking the Island Expedition the last time I tried it, and I just went through the entire thing and didn't get a Lua error. Like they're obviously just making changes every time they can, you know, and updating it just as much as they possibly can, as quickly as they can. So they're obviously working very hard on this expansion right now. It's something I'm noticing because a lot of the errors a lot of the bugs, right, that I'll put in, I'll only have to put it in once and then I'll see it get fixed. And that's really encouraging to see. Is that they're really like going hard on fixing those bugs, and they probably have several other teams that are working on their war fronts, and they're, you know, like you do, where you have your separate dungeon designers, raid designers, all that stuff.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the Warfront stuff is starting to get data mined.
Yeah, it means it's gonna be
Because-
real.
Yeah, because that was the big question mark. It was like it was so little
So
was
little.
revealed during BlizzCon that it was like, is it just vaporware? Like, is this just like, hey, here's one of those cool ideas that, like the dance studio that we want to see, but it's not actually going to make it.
Right. So with Warfronts, some of the information that's come to the surface is that is first off a map for Stormguard has been data mined, where and it's an interactive map. So basically, what you're able to do is kind of like you were with your garrison. You pick buildings that are going to give you advantages throughout the battle. It's looking like, and so basically. My guess would be that it's going to be similar to, it's going to kind of like encompass that Battleground mixed with Island Expedition feel, where you're collecting resources against the other team for a certain amount of the phase, and then you are going to, or against the AI for a certain amount of the phase, and then you're going to go into like a prepare for battle mode, where you're getting these buildings up, getting your army figured out, getting your strategy figured out, and then you're going to have your battle. Would be my guess. But like I said,
yeah, so
no Warfront shit available yet, so.
yeah, well, the Warfront sounds like I thought from BlizzCon it made it sound like, okay, you've got leveling and dungeons, and then end game you had Warfronts, raids, expeditions. I'm glad to find out that expeditions are like part of the leveling experience as well.
Yep, you can do it.
And it sounds like they're actually a decent source of AP. Which
I
we
would
can
say so. From what I
we can
tell.
still use that term because Azerite and Artifact are the same.
Yeah, Azerite power and Artifact power. It really works out.
But yeah, because it looks like it also, based on what I saw earlier when you got one, didn't feel like, and then maybe it's just like the scaling is going to go off the roof again, but with Legion, it scaled up so quickly that during leveling, it didn't really feel like you could put in a lot. Like it took forever to get certain things.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how it's going to work out long run, because based on like the early stuff in beta, which obviously there's no testing on it yet, it felt like the system was going to be like there was a limit to number of talents or tiers, and I'm curious how they're going to do, like what's the point of the power after that, unless it's going to be something that you like, if you want to change talents you can, when it like change the what you chose, you just have to spend artifact power to do it. And if that's the case, I'm fine with that. Just interesting, but I don't know. When do you did they do any communication through email about like what they want you to test? Because honestly, I've never been part of their alpha. I've done the open beta, but
It's
it
very
was really kind
similar
of like
to the beta.
okay.
What,
So it's just kind of
what
the
they,
forum, and like they release new stuff, and it's just like, hey, please test this.
Well, basically, all I've gotten so far is I got the initial email that told me these are the things that we are working on, or that we want you to test, which was basically like level or try out these 4 zones. You know, it wants you to try out the 4 available zones. It wants you to do island expeditions. It wants you to do the 3 available dungeons, and that shit. And like, so basically, it's just like play everything we have, you know, and give us feedback here. And like, then I got the other email I got was a basically just a thank you for your input email. So you know, fucking yeah, we got your messages, so thanks for contributing, kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna die. But yeah, so
Yeah, that
generally there hasn't been much information as far as like, or much
Blizzard
communication yet.
Yeah, Blizzard's been doing a little bit more of that. Thank you for your feedback type stuff. I've noticed, like with one of their other games, Overwatch. Like if you report someone and they end up getting banned for it, they like you'll get a message saying, "Hey, like no, this person's been
What
banned."
happened?
Huh? What
Something-
happened? Looks like your healer
What
died.
the shit? I've been removed from the group. They didn't like me running across the bridge quickly. Okay, whatever. I was just trying to do a kite strategy, but that's fine. Well, fuck.
It's like this is like we need to try and break shit. It's alpha.
Oh,
I'm surprised. I'm not. I guess I shouldn't be surprised in the WoW community of being complete.
just like, I wasn't trying
It's-
to break nothing. I was just fucking running across the bridge so that you guys could kill them while I wasn't dying. Because our healer wasn't able to keep up with, Ooh, I got mail from the black market auction house. That's exciting. I could have just gotten a new mount that I probably actually have access to, now that I think about it. But, yeah.
So that's a good question, considering mounts. So with Legion, the constant bitching you've gotten, actually pretty much every expansion is, oh, no flying. How do you feel the zones are laid out for ground mount? Are there a lot of annoyances like the high mountain type zones so far, or is it mostly navigatable on a ground mount without too much inconvenience?
That's a really great question. Learning the zones is frustrating. Not like beat your head against the wall frustrating, but like I would say it's more just pretty annoying, where you're confined to the roads until you kind of really get the layout, and it's kind of difficult to get the layout when your map isn't really a really reliable map, you know. But it's so with the first zone that I did, Zoldazar, you have a lot of hills. As you can see, there are just hills, cliffs, stuff that you have to stick to the road because there's not very many open fields. The Alliance zones, they have one zone that is very mountainous, and then they have Drustvar, which is like a forest. And so forests aren't good for either of the type of travel forms, but usually ground mounts are a little easier to navigate through forests unless you fly directly over top, in which case you just kind of like, you get a boring view the entire time.
Yeah.
I am I think it's important that anybody who watches this understands I am a huge proponent of not having to fly. I really like the convenience of flying, but I enjoy to. God damn it! I just got great. I too much enjoy the beauty that you get from the immersion of the world, where you are surrounded by this beautiful jungle and golden pyramids that we can't see from this hole, unfortunately. But where you know it's yeah, I fell into it. I found another hole. And so to me, I'm like, okay, if there's not flying, I don't care. You know, there will be flying. Blizzard will never take flying away from us. Don't worry. Everybody made their voices heard. But the ground travel is fine in this game, in this expansion. There are parts where, yeah, when you're learning it, because as you can see over there, there's a very hilly areas going on, and there are points where you have to travel by water, which can be a little frustrating if you don't have a water walking mount. Oh,
I know what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah, I strongly I mean, like, there comes a point where it's like it's time to grind that water walking mount because it makes life more convenient. And I would say it was a couple expansions ago. That said, Blizzard has implemented in this expansion a few different ways to, like, the outside of the Flightmaster whistle, which doesn't exist as of yet, but neither does Max level.
That was at max level in Legion, so it's not unusual that it's not there yet.
Right.
Like, you had to do a certain number of world quests before you unlocked it and get rep up.
Right. But so what you have in Zandalar is a choice of, you know, do you want a movement speed increase buff, which is what I am demonstrating right now because that's what I chose, or do you want a basically additional ways to instant travel, like additional flight points essentially, but they're not exactly flight points. They are places that will generally be placed randomly throughout the map that you can go to, and you can use them to port back to somewhere else. I don't care about instant travel. My Hearthstone's cooldown is rarely on cooldown unless I fall into a goddamn hole. So I chose the movement speed. But other people might like the ability, like they might use their Hearthstone like crazy and teleport all the time. I run back to the quest turn-ins. I never use my fucking Hearthstone. It's just who I am as a player. But that's the kind of thing you can expect over the next two zones. Is like the less of the, you know, establishing your garrison or your outposts that we had in Warlords of Draenor, or I don't think we actually even had anything similar to that in Legion that I can think of, where we're picking between buffs and zone-wide buffs and stuff. But that, you know, it's less dramatic, but still fun.
So is there is
benefit of being in a zone?
Is this the table system, I guess?
That is not on alpha yet.
Okay.
And
There's
honestly,
been talk of it, and I wasn't.
Yeah, there has been, and I'm not convinced that's going to make it to live, honestly, and I'll tell you why. So the table that people are talking about, that is the Garrison Command table, I'm going to show you it, because they say it's on alpha, but it's not. And it's kind of misleading, and I feel like this might be a clickbait thing that's been happening in the community. So here's your Garrison Command table, and when you click it, this is what you get. And so what you do from here is you pick if you want to start in Nazmir, or if you want to start in Zul'Jazar. There it is, if I remember the name of it. And this is the only table, because if this is the Horde Embassy that we're in right now, if you go down here, there's a bank. If you go to the other side, you have the portal room, and that's it.
Okay.
So, oh hey, I haven't seen this part. Maybe it's up here.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing as, because in Legion, your garrison table was also the place you used to select which zones you're hitting first.
Yeah, exactly. So it could very well be implemented that, you know, we get a command table. Yeah. Either way, like, I hated the damn thing in Warlords. I didn't care about it in Legion. Like, it didn't affect me. You know, if I wanted the quest thing, I never felt like... The part that I thought was really frustrating about the Legion one was the time gate you got from the table, like, for your campaign and stuff. And Blizzard says they're not going to put that in Battle for Azeroth. And, you know, if that's true, then I don't care about this table at all. If people want to use it, fine. Yeah. It's not for me. But if you want to use it, fucking enjoy it.
You'll still, if they still have, hey, here you can get here's your raid box. You'll do it.
Yeah, that part was pretty nice. I won't lie. I mean, there's benefits to, and also the fact that you can make something like 65,000 gold a week from it. You know, like there are benefits to the using the table.
Well, I'm actually of the opinion of, and like I like that. I like making free gold. It needs to, that part, if it does come back, needs to go away.
The free gold.
Yeah, it's just like that's why everything so gets like so expensive, because it's like, hey, there's free gold in the market.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the
And,
market's
like
pretty
repairs aren't enough
flooded.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, the market is flooded as shit right now.
I mean, just watching like how quickly the WoW token has went up, man.
No kidding. Unfortunately, though, it kind of becomes irrelevant because when you think about it, the majority of gold the easiest gold to get outside of that garrison command table, what would you say that is?
I mean, dailies or world quests, pretty much.
You think dailies are world quests? That could be true. I would still wager that it is old raids that we can solo. And so every expansion, you unlock a new tier of old raids that you can solo. And unless Blizzard wanted
they
to,
nerfed it. They nerfed it
Yeah.
in Legion. Like,
and
I mean,
it could end up being harsher because what we could see in this stat squish is that these raids become no longer soloable.
they've kind of communicated against that, though.
I agree that they should do that, and they have communicated against it. I agree that that is not the right decision to make, is to block off the ability to run through those old raids, because then you remove the ability for anybody to see that content that they made, fucking 10 years ago. But that said, that is something that is severely hurting the economy of WoW. And by hurting, I mean inflating. That, along with your daily quest / world quest and your garrison command table, those things are probably making up around 65 to 75% of the money that a player gets. Outside of that, you have your professions, and then this is not including the auction house people that are like Rox, who just play the auction house, and that's the version of WoW that they play outside of raids.
Yeah.
That's such a huge thing, though.
I can do a bit of it. It's just the amount of time you gotta invest in that is ridiculous, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're good at it, you're like the mythic raider of doing that. You know what I mean? Like, where you've got
There's so many
millions and millions
tools
of
to
gold.
do it right.
Right.
The big one is just being willing to, like a lot of people, if you're doing a lot of other stuff, it's hard to be able to play the auction house completely because you may actually spend all of your gold
Yeah,
where on things that you can't reinvest.
that's what I did.
But at the same time, it's like I don't max it out, but I like during raiding, I would make sure I constantly made whatever the highest selling feasts at the time were, or not feasts, but like just base stat food, and just I would sell around 200 of it, and that would give me enough gold to last a month. And
Yeah.
I can obviously do that. I can obviously continue that and just keep doubling gold, and because there's no shortage, and if you do it on the right day, easy. Like if you're an alchemist or like obviously you should have your cooking up, but it's very easy to kind of make gold that way because everyone is going to need it on raid day, which is Tuesday for most mythic guilds. And yeah, you're obviously going to have the people who are buying it are probably not mythic guilds, just because
They make their own.
they've got, they're going to have people in their guild that are doing it. But you've got the trial raiders, and then like you got the casual guilds who are still raiding and still want food. They're still progressing through heroic. It's just it's not the same. So it's definitely the kind of thing that will contribute. Speaking of, like, there was a pretty large argument forum post about what do you call that? Inscription, the tomes.
Yeah.
People advocating for going back to people were advocating for making it free all the time, and now it's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it wasn't ever free all the time. You still had to use dust. Now the dust was like a couple copper, but it was still a reagent-based change.
Have you seen the new version of Inscription that's on the alpha?
No, I have not.
Buddy, I'm gonna show you it because it's to me, because you have to understand that I haven't paid attention to Inscription in a long time. So like the biggest thing that has surprised me recently about Inscription was that crap that you use in raids. And so that said, I'm gonna try to find the vendor here. It should be over here on the right. The inscriptioning stuff looks promising for this expansion, and it looks like they're gonna actually become a pretty valuable profession if I can ever find them. But so what we're looking at is basically you're going to be able to make these scrolls that give you raid buffs, and from what I can tell so far, they don't stack with anything. I just have to find the inscription vendor and I'll be able to give you better details. But it's sounding like they're going to be a major player in the raiding buff market or whatever. Here we go. Alright, so inscriptions. So check it out. First off, we've got these contracts. So what the contracts do is basically they make it so that you can earn reputation for doing any world quest with a specific reputation, which I think is a good idea. Makes it note that
It'll make the flying training a little easier for people.
probably I would say
The
so.
people who join late, I mean, it's a goal as well, which we need more of those.
And then other than that, you've got offhands and Darkmoon decks. Let me find the.
At the same time, this still keeps me worrying about your tailoring and your leatherworking. I was about to say weaponsmithing, armor crafting.
Yeah. So
Because it's just like or blacksmithing. It's like what did these professions bring these days? Like in the old
Right.
days, you could make sockets. Like jewel crafting still has a slot because you have a chance at sockets. Obviously, I mean it's not going to be. It hasn't been huge in a long time, but it is what it is.
but if you get like 3 to 4 sockets on your character, and that's about at least what my average was in Legion was I'd end up having 3 or 4 sockets on my character. But I also had really good luck with gear. So
Yeah.
So what we got here is War Scrolls, right? This is Inscription. So the first level of the Battle Shout War Scroll we see is use increase the target's strength and agility by 7% for 30 minutes. If your target is in the raid or party, all raid members will be affected. So basically, this is your Battle Shout buff. The thing it doesn't say though is that this overrides or underrides Battle Shout. You know what I mean? And same as for Fortitude, which gives you 7%, and then Intellect, which gives you 7%. Now, you see 7%, and you're like, that's not that big of a deal. It's still good. You would still take having 7% more over not having 7% more. But also, this increases with your level of Zandalari Inscription, right? So,
Yeah.
right now, I am not an Inscriptionist, so it's only 7%. From what I understand, this goes up to 30%, which is huge. So that would be really interesting to see.
I don't know. I do know that tailoring is getting first aid, where it's getting moved.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see, like what that actually means. Are we going to start getting like a health potion that can be made by tailors that as strong as health stones? Because I mean, what we found was health stones were like a godsend in progression.
Oh my god, yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with
The new health stones. God, they're so good.
Yeah. I mean, even then, like the ancient, like the pretty high up there too right now. Like it's not as good as Hellstones, but if you have to I think the big flaw with them is the cooldowns are a little high.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I want to see. I want to see like the crafting professions be useful for more than beginning of expansion, for like the non-raid profession.
I would really like to see I would like to see boss fights. So we have our raid fights, right? Where we have our typical raids. I would like to see like a different level of raid that is a different kind of raid that is designed for you to be able to use like the shit out of your professions. So that way you have like what matters isn't that you are a warrior, a arms warrior. What matters is that you're an arms warrior who is also an engineer, because those bombs and those things that root stuff and those things that, you know, do this or that are what is going to make it so you can win this encounter, you know. And
Yeah.
like, to me, where it's like it's not bring the class, it's bring the profession to this kind of raid would be really fun. Like it would be an interesting way to just do the same content we've been doing differently. And I think it would be really cool to see Blizzard do that. Like, at least try it with one boss. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere, like, if you have a one boss raid, like, and that's the key to it, is that you need engineers and you need, like, give us a reason to do professions. But that said, you know, then you have your armor crafting professions whose armor doesn't really matter, and there's no real reason to be a blacksmith or a
Yeah,
leather
like
worker. Whatever.
it reached an okay point in Legion where it's like, no, you can upgrade it to, like, it's good to
935.
start out, but again, it's just like, it's just good to start out, and the cost of upgrading was so insane.
Yeah, it was.
Like the gold sync, like, you could make pretty decent money on it, but it was saying, like, you had to spend a lot of money to even get to that point.
Yeah,
Just
you're looking at,
Cancel all your gear.
if you were wanting to get all of your crafted gear to 935 at the end of Legion, if you're wanting to get all your crafted gear to 935 and have, you know, the best you could start out with as far as crafting goes, it would cost you probably 300,000 gold or so to buy the armor itself, and then buy the obliterum.
At least
and
on our
shit.
server, but yeah.
Right, on our server.
Like that
And
that
we're
varies
pretty
server to server, but
low
yeah.
priced. We're a pretty low price server, so from what I understand.
Mhm.
But I mean, I did it several times. Because, you know, getting the alchemist stone or whatever, the 935 alchemist stone was huge. That's a great trinket to have at 935, and on top of that, you know, getting your helms, your what was it, your helms, chest, legs, or something, depending on your class. You're able to get 3 935 items. It's really nice.
Yeah. And it is good. And I guess it still means that the professions are useful, but man, it doesn't feel like enough, because like, there's a certain point where oversaturation of the market, not enough people buying it, and it just, your profession suddenly, or especially, and even if you're one of those people who doesn't sell anything that you craft, it feels bad, because it's like, hey, I don't need anything in my craft, and I'm not going to go sell it, so why should I even keep tailoring? I may as well switch to alchemy, because alchemy I need that constantly, and enchanting, because I need that constantly, and I don't know what to do with all these old epic gear that I'm no longer wearing. I may as well.
Right. At one point, I know that I switched all of my tanks to alchemy, because I wanted them to have the alchemist stone at one. Because
Well, yeah, and with
well, I was
Legion,
gearing them up.
you also had that huge buff in Legion where when you get
the 2-hour flask.
the 2-hour flasks, and it's just like, I mean, why wouldn't I do that? That, like, even if the raid is even if my guild is providing me flasks, I'm saving my guild money
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah,
And,
I'm
like,
saving a ton of
maybe-
money.
We've been like cauldrons, or just like make it even cheaper, as long as you have a decently sized raid. And even if you don't, like, if you have just 15 people, you can get 2 flasks out of that. Like, may as well.
By the way,
And it's just,
I'm running around the Horde capital city. Just so you guys know, this is our city for
So,
Battle for Azeroth. It's
scale and population seems to be similar in the vein of like your Suramar.
Yeah, no, they gave us Suramars. They gave the Horde and the Alliance Suramars, because the thing is so I'm gonna go with slight spoilers, but this isn't gonna tell you anything about the actual story itself, other than what you probably already know. This is a zone, right? We're looking at a zone. We have the main city hub here, which is this tower, has basically all the merchants and stuff, and this tower at the end of the storyline becomes friendly, and you can just like walk around it in RP. And that's the city. And there's like several different levels, both inside and out, to both of them. And then behind this tower, is where you saw me like queue up for the island expeditions. That's where the harbor is, which is also friendly. So basically, you were getting a huge city in this, and so is the Alliance. And to me, that's probably one of the most. I love major cities, and this is one of the most major city rewarding expansions that we've had in fucking like 6 years or something. Probably since
like
Burning
Suramar
Crusade.
was the closest we've gotten.
Yeah, and that wasn't one of our cities, and this is, and it's really like
Even at the
very
end of the
alive.
expansion, it's still not a city.
Yeah. But there's a bad guy up there. But yeah, it's really cool, and there's a lot of
There's
stuff.
city transportation, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. When you get to ride the
Slow.
dinosaur, you ride the goddamn dinosaur. You can also throw fruit at these little fuckers over here, and they get feared.
Huh.
It's fun, little fun stuff. I don't even know where this thing goes, but we're gonna find out. Look at me, I'm sitting comfortably on a mount right now. This looks great. They just fucking strap me to the side.
That should probably be submitted.
They just strap me to the side. No, I hope that makes it to live.
Well, seems like there's gonna be a lot of fun stuff coming.
Yeah, the alpha's looking promising. It's definitely looking promising, and I'll definitely be keeping updates rolling out as they come, and we'll have plenty to talk about. And hopefully, if I protest the Blizzard enough, we'll be able to get you in here too, so we could just do alpha stuff together for the podcast and not actually have to work.
Well,
Yeah, it's about that time. We're going on 2 hours.
yeah, it is about that time.
Well, if you guys had fun today, just, call your congressman and tell him that you had fun today. And, yeah, leave it a like. Fucking follow me on Twitch. Follow Faye on Twitch at thisFaye. Follow Faye, in real life. Find his car and drive behind it. Faye, you got anything you want to say?
No, that's. I mean, this was mostly you because you're with Alpha and you see all the fun new stuff.
Yeah, but you're the one who
easy
had
for
the
me.
real information because I didn't do any
Because you're
homework.
playing it. All I get to see is the data mining, the background stuff.
Hey, Pro Warrior doesn't work, and everybody's like, oh, it does. It just isn't fun.
It's just completely different. I mean, that part's fair. Like, I think your complaint about it is Ignore Pain is completely different, and that feels weird.
And I
Like-
don't like it yet.
Well, and it's the same thing for me. Like when Brewmaster was changed from Warlords to Legion, I used to be able to clear all of this magic, and this feels wrong. Like everyone was saying, I'm the worst, like Brewmaster worst tank ever at the beginning of the expansion.
Yeah, I remember that.
We made it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say you did.
All right.
All right, we're going to
What
call
about you? You planning on streaming this week?
Christ, yeah, probably. I've been doing Sea of Thieves and Battle for Azeroth Alpha, and I plan to continue that. Sea of Thieves is an incredibly fun game, and I have the video up on Twitch right now for both the first night of Alpha and the first night of Sea of Thieves. Check those out because they're pretty fun, but they're also very long. So I'll be trying to make some condensed versions to leave on YouTube. As far as this coming up week, Tuesday, Wednesdays, look out for me. I'm going to be doing more Battle for Azeroth Alpha. And then this weekend, I will probably be doing Sea of Thieves with some friends and being able to make some funnies and coordinated stuff and whatnot. So yeah, that's all she wrote.
All right.
It was good seeing everybody again. I hope we see you at this time next week. We have more information on things, maybe some more footage. Drive safely, everybody. Good night.